I have 9 o'clock
Okay.
on my devices. So,
All right. We're
yep.
ready to light this candle this morning. Yeah. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I know we're probably going to still have some people join us, but we do want to go ahead and get started. Looks like we're about 16 people right now. I think we were at a little over 30 registered, so I think we're going to have some more people join us this morning. But I really appreciate everybody joining us this morning. For those, see a lot of familiar names on the attendee list, but for those of you that I don't have the opportunity to know, my name is Brian Phelan, and joining me this morning from our county administrator's office here is Natalie Chapman. Natalie and I kind of share responsibility on a couple of different fronts. We work primarily on an economic and industrial development, but we also share responsibility on tourism and marketing for the county. And you're going to be hearing from Natalie a little bit later this morning. But really, we're really excited about this webinar this morning because we really feel like this is a Airbnb is really kind of a meshing point of what Natalie and I and our team here at the county are working on, because it really does combine economic development and it combines the tourism aspects of the county also. And so we're very excited about this. Everybody taking a little bit of time this morning to join us and learn. And we're going to be learning right along with you, because this is kind of an ever evolving idea, especially here in our county and our region. And I know we have people probably from outside of Wise County, and that's great. We appreciate that. So we'll try to speak in kind of broader terms as much as we can. But of course, Natalie and I are homers at heart, and so we're going to be kind of focused more on the Wise County side of things. But a couple of kind of housekeeping things. Your microphones and your cameras are going to be turned off throughout the presentation, but we want to encourage you to use the Q&A feature. If you have any questions, just put those in the Q&A. And as Sandy is doing the presentation, Natalie and I are going to kind of be monitoring the Q&A portion. And then when the presentation's finished, Sandy will be turning on the microphones, and that way we can have some discussion if there's any questions you all may have. So with that, I want to introduce our very good friend, Sandy Ratliff. A lot of you know Sandy and see some things in the comments there already about Sandy. We know what a great resource and asset Sandy is to Wise County and then the entire region. But for those of you that don't know, Sandy is the Vice President for Community Innovation for Virginia Community Capital. We reached out to Sandy a few months ago. She was referred to us by Virginia Tourism, and they said, "Hey, if you're going to do this workshop, Sandy Ratliff is the person to do it for you." So, Sandy, we really appreciate you, appreciate what you do for Wise County, and I'm gonna turn it over to Luke, turn it over to you, and let you run with it.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be back kind of in the saddle again. It's been several years since I have presented this session, but it's something that I developed several years ago because Southwest Virginia has a number of properties available that are either sitting empty because of someone moved or inherited or what have you. And people now are starting to find Southwest Virginia because of our beauty and how tourism has increased tremendously over the last few years. So why not put the two and two together to where our citizens can make a little money through the visitation of our tours? So that's what I'm going to focus on today. I want to share a little bit about Virginia Community Capital. If you're not familiar with us, we are a community development financial institution that we were established in 2006 during the Mark Warner administration, who said we need to do more funding and have access to capital for small business owners and communities. And thus he helped us access a $15 million investment to start Virginia Community Capital. And our main lines of business is impact lending and investments. Through that 15 million investment, we've been able to turn that around to 1.86 billion in impact and loan and job creation in Virginia. And that's something that we're very proud of. We've done well over 950 loans, equaling over $709 million. But one of the things I'm very proud of is that we offer lots and lots of free advising services. That's actually the team that I work with, and we've since our start, we've done over 31,000, almost probably 31.5 in hours for free advising. So that's something that makes us a little different than a usual bank. We are a nonprofit, but we have a for-profit bank, which makes us unique. I think there's only 9 in the nation like us. Some of the major programs that we do is we do real estate lending. One of the reasons that we were created is to help with affordable housing, which I think that is something now and is needed in all communities throughout Virginia. We do a lot of that. We also have a food access loan fund for communities that it's hard to believe that there are food deserts in Virginia where people do not have access to fresh foods. And what this is what this fund helps with, is to allow help business owners who want to get into the fresh food market and have access for the citizens. We also do solar energy lending, as well as small business lending. And you can see there, I won't go through every line of it. Our typical loan structure is anything from 150,000 to 5.4 million. And you can see there the different types of eligible uses of those funds. The other thing that we do, especially in our team, is professional development training. For those of you that know me, I've been doing training since probably, I would say 2015, if not or earlier than that. No, I'm sorry. Time flies when you're having fun. It was in 2006 that I started with the state of Virginia and started working to help get opportunities out to citizens in Southwest Virginia. If you've not joined one of our new knowledge sessions, those are held every 2 weeks. We do about 20 plus of those a year. And I just want to call your attention that tomorrow we do have a new market tax credit session. If that's something you're interested in, especially as you're investing in real estate, that might be something you want to look at. Those are held at noon on Wednesdays, and they are online as well. And I also want to call your attention, we're getting ready to start a QuickBooks series in that program. And for 4 weeks, we'll have a CPA talking about different aspects of using QuickBooks. The other thing that I want to call your attention to is our team is doing a session, in-person workshops next week, and we're going to be doing one in Bristol on April the 1st, and it's talking about different community, and economic development financial resources, and also talking about opportunity zones. So that's something you might want to look at. So that's not why you're here. You're wanting to hear about Airbnb. It's hard to believe that how much this has taken over in a short amount of time when Airbnb started, but it's basically a renting platform that you can use to put your property on, that people can find you, they can make their reservation, and this is where your money's coming from. It helps owners of properties to get to increase their market access and to get those properties rented out. There's over 2.9 million hosts worldwide, so you're not the only one doing it. So don't think you're going to make a mistake, because you won't be the only one that's done anything like that. And it's a really easy platform to use. And you can rent your entire home, a private room, or in a shared space. It's however you want to set it up and use it. Why is Airbnb a great opportunity for Southwest Virginia? By the way, that aerial is when I was learning to fly my drone. This is over where I live. That's actually my home there in the bottom of the photo, but it offers an opportunity for small businesses and people that are wanting to get into business, a way to generate revenue. It also helps create needed housing and rental options for our communities. Again, I mentioned tourism. That's one of the reasons why I started this program, is to help the tourism industry with, it's not easy to attract a big developer to come and put in a Hampton Inn or a Holiday Inn in some of our communities, but we do have a lot of empty housing in these communities. So why not turn those into Airbnb properties? And that way you're able to generate revenue that helps pay those taxes. You got to pay them anyway. For a small investment, you can start bringing in some income. But it also, there's people that are traveling that prefer to stay in Airbnbs instead of into these stuffy old hotels. And they like the character, and it gives them a better feel of the area. So those are things that you need to look at. This is just a few statistics about Airbnb. I'm not going to go through each one of them. Typically, an Airbnb costs less than a hotel. They are, I guess, more amenable to their clientele. Now, you do have risk with property damage when you are not careful about who you make a reservation to, and we'll talk more about that as we get into it. The average cost for a nightly stay is about $80, but that again changes depending on your location. And we're going to talk more about the fees, but typically a host fee is about 3% that you're going to pay out for every booking to Airbnb. And then the guest is going to pay up. It could be up as much as 20% of the total to pay all the other expenses. But again, that last bullet, I want to call your attention to. If you have other properties or businesses, especially cafes and restaurants in Southwest Virginia, why it's important, this industry, Airbnb industry, is because in 2018, guests spent upwards to $35 billion at local cafes and restaurants and shops in those areas. So from an economic development standpoint, that's pretty substantial. And that's why communities are helping folks get started, just like Brian and Natalie is doing this workshop today, is to help folks take advantage of this opportunity. I've not been able to find updated info, but here's an example of the impact just in Washington County. This was in 2018. Over 750,000 guests stayed in 40 Virginia counties. That's the impact for Virginia, and I'm sure that's almost doubled in the last several years. But just in Washington County, 7,000 guests stayed in 1 year in Washington County. That provides a supplemental income of about $5,500 per Virginia host. So you can think about what additional income you're going to generate. Think about that, $5,500 to, I say it could go up to $8,000 that you could generate for just one property. Here's AirDNA is a website that I get a lot of statistics from and see the activity. But I looked up some of the communities in Southwest Virginia that operate, that have Airbnb within there. Wise County, the average daily cost is $103. The occupancy rate is 65% for those properties. And the monthly revenue is about $1,800. And you can see the other communities, like, for example, Abington, that's $172 a night that they charge, 70% occupancy rate, and about $2,900 monthly revenue for those hosts. But I mean, look at even Clintwood. They keep a 70% occupancy rate for Airbnb properties there. And folks are generating close to $1,000 in extra income. So the opportunities there, is just, it takes a little work to get started and to operate, but it can be a revenue generator for you. As I mentioned earlier, Airbnb takes 3% commission on that. And that's basically what happens when you set up your account and you reservations start going through your account on Airbnb. They take that money off. And in some cases, in communities, Airbnb will also take the tax and pay it directly to those counties. It just depends on how it's set up. I don't know if everybody knows Eva Belay. Eva's the one that worked with me to put this program together, because she started an Airbnb in Mendota, Virginia. And if you've been to Mendota, you know it's pretty isolated and out there. It's beautiful, beautiful country. but Eva had a garage with an apartment over top, and they decided, let's try opening up an Airbnb and see what we can do with that to generate some extra income on that property that was basically sitting empty and doing nothing. Probably like the rest of us, it was just a storage place for all of our junk that we're don't want to get rid of. But I'm going to let Eva, and hopefully this video will work, talk about why she started it and how that's been operating. So good luck, and partners, let me know if the video doesn't work.
My name is Eva, and I live in Mendota, Virginia, and I have an Airbnb there. I've had the structure. It's a standalone garage apartment, actually. So it's detached from our house, and it's been on the property for 15 years. It was a caretaker's cottage at one point. And then in July, I decided to try my hand at Airbnb. I never dreamed anyone would come out to Mendota, Virginia and stay with me, but I thought I'll give it a try and see. And I was very pleasantly surprised. One of the most fun things about having an Airbnb versus getting that payment after they check out is meeting the people and learning why they come. It wasn't for the same reasons that I thought they would come. Since we have a river outfitter, I thought that I would get guests because they'd want to kayak and stay at my property. And that's happened a few times, but more likely they're staying at the property and they learn about the kayaking, which is different than I thought it would be. But the people, they all have different motivations. We're 17 miles from a grocery store, and I thought that would be a real detriment. And it probably is in terms of volume, but a lot of my guests are looking for that out of the way place, that it's quiet. One of my favorite guests was working on a cookbook. She needed to get away from her children and her family, and she came down for 2 days and worked on a cookbook. Another young lady came and worked on her thesis. Other people, they're just motivated to give an opportunity to someone in our area who's trying to do something different. Well, I had a slight advantage because I stayed in an Airbnb, and I noticed what I liked and didn't like. So the first thing I did was I took a long look at my property, and I determined what would be the negatives and the positives. The first thing that I had complete control over was cleanliness, and I cleaned it from top to bottom. I made everything accessible and put notes on where to find things. Instead of just having a bunch of things under my kitchen sink to wash dishes with, I organized them. I put them in baskets. I labeled and made it easy for my guests to find how to scrub a pot, what dish detergent to use in the dishwasher, what to use in the sink, those types of things. I never assume that they're going to know where something is or find something. So I had to take a long, hard look at the whole property like that, focused on cleanliness and organization. The one thing that bothered me, it bothers me in hotels and it bothers me in Airbnbs. Everybody wants to watch TV at night. There's nothing to do. Generally, you want to watch the news or do something. Learning how to use that remote. And I put very clear remote instructions out. I've got them everywhere because that seems to be a topic that, especially if there's a man over there, they got to have their TV on. So that's one of the things that I did, just looking at every part of that property. And is it clean? What would it look like to a stranger? Trying to look at it with their eyes instead of my eyes. Thinking what would set me aside, because I am in a further location than an Airbnb in Bristol. And in my case, I decided on a limited basis to be pet friendly. Also, I decided to market myself as that remote place in Southwest Virginia and try to turn a negative into a positive. In our case, we had an existing LLC called Rivercliff Farms that houses my Adventure Mendota, the kayaking part. So this just became another leg in that LLC. We did have to talk with insurance companies and get some advice about that, but it just became another part of the revenue stream for Rivercliff Farms. So when Airbnb gives me the money that I earn, it goes right into that and becomes part of our income. The Airbnb, I think the reason they are successful is they do make it easy for the novice. In my case, my delay was I wanted to have the very best pictures. I still don't have the best pictures. I aspire to have better pictures, but that was my delay. In terms of uploading those pictures and writing about my property that I had to offer, Airbnb led me through that process. I could be creative in talking about the property, but they led me through the process. It was very easy. And, it's a matter of just sitting down and doing it and not procrastinating. And then it's so fun when you get your first message and it's a guest who is interested in staying with you and they're inquiring about your property and you realize this really is going to work. Also, the payment processing part, very simple. Airbnb takes care of all of that for you. All you see is that deposit going into your account, which is pretty fun.
So I hope that gave you some inspiration. And you wrote down some things that she said. First of all, a suggestion I have, if you've not stayed at an Airbnb, load up in the pickup and go stay at a couple Airbnbs over the next few months. Make notes of what you liked and what you did not like. If you can, talk to the host, ask questions about how they got started or any lessons learned. One thing I'm sure they will say, and when I've talked to other Airbnb hosts, they're very careful sometimes of who they, especially if it's someone locally within the same jurisdictions that wants to rent your space, because there's been you can probably look it up online, some horror stories of spring break or high school graduations where they used an Airbnb to have their party and just trashed it. So that's why you got to think of those kind of things until it's too late. You don't want to have it. If your property is not ready, I suggest you get it ready, do your budget, see what it's going to take. And I highly recommend that you have it right before you have your first guest, because you want those good reviews. You want those posted on the Airbnb wall for your property, and you want to get it right at the very beginning instead of making all those mistakes, or the commode will not flush, or the TV's not working. As Eva said, that's pretty important to some people, especially men, that the TV and the remote works. So that's things that you need to look at. But how does it work on Airbnb? It's simple. You go to Airbnb, sign up, create an account, put your properties on there, list it, and we'll go into more about this in the presentation, but talk about your property, what's unique about it, and then now you are a Airbnb host. Now, if you've not, again, you're new, you're just setting up an account, it's pretty easy. And to make this easy for me, I created a little video of how you go about setting up an account on Airbnb. If I can do it, you can too.
Setting up an Airbnb account is very easy. Just go to Airbnb Inc., create an account. You can use your existing Facebook account or Gmail account, or set up your own. I set up a new Gmail account just to make things easier and to keep things separated. Just fill in the information, your password, and all the other information that they request. You might want to include there that you don't want to receive marketing messages from Airbnb. That's your decision. After you've completed everything, just simply hit sign up and you go from there. Of course, they want you to make sure you have read all the information and you agree to their terms. And if you do and you want to proceed, just hit accept. Now, this is where you start populating the information about your property. Is it a house? Is it a room in your home? What type of home is it? There are a number to choose from. Pick the one that best describes your property. And is it going to be the entire home? Is it going to be a bedroom in your home? Again, these are all things that you pick out and decide. Now it wants to learn more about your home, how many bedrooms, how many beds are in each bedroom. All of this information, again, is going to go into populating your account to give potential stayers more information about what you have to offer. And I encourage you to spend time on this and make sure you include everything, because you may offer something that your neighbor down the street or the next community over does not offer. So take time to make sure you have all of this information completed. Help people find where you're located at. So put your address, that they can find you in searches if they're looking for a location in Grundy, Richlands, Tazewell, Abington, Clifton Forge. Make it easy for you to be found, because you're going through all this for a reason. Make it easy. Don't make assumptions.
Okay, I hope that helped, and that you're ready to move forward. One of the things I wanted to point out, those little details. For example, you may have a sofa that makes out into a bed. Include that in your description. It may be that someone's coming to a family reunion and they want to rent out your space, and they have that extra cousin that's coming and they need some place to stay too. So think about that. And for those that know me, you may have noticed when I was showing you how to set up your account and I put my birth date in there. I'm going to be honest with you. I was not totally honest on there, so I'm just giving it to you straight. I wish I was at that age anymore, but there are three main types of hosts out there. Those are those of us that just want to generate a little extra income because we have the available space. There are those that have they're looking for a stable secondary source of income, and they do that. And not everybody has just one property. You can have multiple properties because there's some people, this is all they do. They just go and buy properties, fix them up, and turn them into Airbnbs. And they have them in multiple communities, states, cities, and this is all they do, is just do Airbnb. So decide what you're wanting to do and why you're doing it. 5 steps to consider when you are getting ready to start an Airbnb. First of all, priority is wherever your property is at, call that jurisdiction. If it's the city, the town, the county, look into all regulations, and Brian and Natalie are going to talk more about that for the WISE area. If your property is in a subdivision or housing development, I guarantee you better be checking with the HOA laws and regulations within those properties. That could shut you down pretty quickly. Check into if there's any specific laws in regards to short-term renting specific to Airbnb and VRBO. Some communities have restrictions in their regulations of how long that you can rent property out. For example, I think the city of Covington will only allow you to rent that space for 30 days, and that's it. And then whoever that tenant is that's renting that, they'll have to rent that from you. So there's different codes and different regulations in communities, so you need to look into that. One of the things that Eva pointed out was to declutter your space, have it open and very pleasing to the eye. You want to make that first impression, and by all means, keep that place tidy. That's something you need to think about if you're going to make the commitment to invest in this property, put it out on Airbnb. Who's going to clean up and get that space ready for the next tenant? If it's going to be you, that means that's extra time for you. If you have to hire it out, that's an added expense, but that's your decision and you've got to make it. And I would definitely do it before you start this business. Eva mentioned about photography and photos of her property. I would suggest, if you can, hire a professional photographer, because again, you want to make that first impression. That first impression is on your website or on your account where people go and learn and find you. So be creative, but make sure it looks clean and tidy, and that people, it's appealing to them. And even don't forget the outside of it. If you've got that beautiful panoramic view, show that, but make that first impression and get that photography done. Airbnb does offer some free photography, but I think it's only in major cities. You can check on there when you set it up. List your space. What's the most appealing inside and out of your space? Try to sell the experience. Don't forget, you're located in one of the prettiest parts of the country, in my opinion. So add that to your comments about the region and some of the attractions that you have. We'll have a bunch of people in town next month for the Bristol Raceway, or it's the birthplace of country music, or all those great things about Southwest Virginia. Joe Morton with Heart of Appalachia can share a lot of good tidbits with you. He's joining us today, so reach out and include that. Some things that Eva shared with me recently that she puts in her guest book. She has a notebook that it contains all of this right there for her guests to access to. First of all, is the 911 address. These are things that we take advantage, but if you're not from here, you don't know who to call in an emergency. So have all those emergency contacts numbers down there. List restaurants and food options within your jurisdictions. If there's any famous restaurants or anything, make sure you include that. If you're providing Wi-Fi, make sure that they know how to get on your Wi-Fi and what the password is for that. As Eva mentioned, she gives detailed instructions on how to use the TV remote. And yes, people can get angry about that. So take out the guesswork for them, make it easy for them. And then again, play up and share all the great things going on in Southwest Virginia that you can do, the outdoor recreations like Spearhead Trails and all the others, the Clinch River and its uniqueness. There's so much in Southwest Virginia and East Tennessee that we have to offer. You might learn a few things while you're doing your research on your Airbnb. So share that with others. Let them fall in love with that property. When you are talking about photography, some tips that you might want to look at is, again, declutter, clean that space, prepare each room, turn on all the lights in the daytime as you're taking those photos, just to bring it, lighten it up. Shoot from a corner, pay attention to the details on the Airbnb. If there's been someone else in there just before you do the photography, make sure they didn't leave their McDonald's cup sitting on that table or anything. Make sure you got the shot correct before you do it. Take some panoramic shots too, especially if you've got a beautiful outside exterior of the property. Show that off. Take from different angles. Paint up the lifestyle within that Airbnb area where it's located, and include some photos from the town or surrounding area. Again, this is your opportunity. First impressions matter. Take advantage of it. Now, when you're pricing your space, as I mentioned earlier, one of the first things you should do when doing your research is go and visit and stay at some Airbnbs, either not only in this area, but in some other areas. Write down those notes. Pay attention to what they're charging, or you can just go on to Airbnb and look at their rates for your area and surrounding areas and see what people are charging. You don't have to be the cheapest in town, and you don't have to, some people, they want to share the experience, so they charge a little bit more. So if you are charging more than your neighbor, you have to have a good reason. You're going to have to sell that for people to know. And you can have different rates if you want for weekend versus weekdays. And, how are you going to justify that? Show it. There's opportunities like in July and August, which is the big vacation time, that you could probably charge more. And again, talking to Heart of Appalachian, finding out what's going on in Southwest Virginia with big events that may be coming into town or going on. You have an opportunity to charge more because the demand is higher. So those are things that you need to think about when you're setting your price. But do your research, please. You can also have custom length prices. Let's just say somebody is coming in for a week or 2 week stay. They're coming for a family reunion, or it could be even for job related. You might want to fluctuate your rates based on the length of stay. Some people do not like to do just a one night stay because the cost and the time it is to prep that space for the next tenant is just not cost effective. So they will only do 2 or 3 night stays. Again, you have to make that decision. It's your property. So do your research, and I hope you're taking notes today, and this is going to help you. Also, Airbnb has a lot of great information on their website based on the market rates and comparing with hotels in the area. So get on their website, and that'll help you with your research on pricing structure for your property. You also might want to look at cancellation policies. For example, if someone rented your space during the the Bristol race coming up is it's the first thing I can think about. You might want to have a strict cancellation policy, because what you don't want to happen is somebody the day before or the week before to cancel out, and then you're lost with filling that space during that weekend. And you want to make sure you're covered. So you decide how you're wanting to do it. Again, there's some great opportunities coming up, and you want to make sure that space is filled. And so look at your cancellation policies. You also need to think about how you're going to do refunds for property. If somebody came and for whatever reason they was not happy with the experience, and you want to help them out, or for whatever reason, only you, whoever sets up the account as the administrator, is going to have access to that to approve that refund. So you need to make those decisions too when you're setting up your account, who is going to be the administrator of it. Another thing too is I kept saying about the experience, why you want a great experience, because you want a good rating on your property, on your profile. And those ratings, I know for me, when I'm looking at some place to stay, I take advantage and look at those ratings. And even if someone made a little note on it, and read them. If I'm investing money in it, just like if I'm buying a product, I want to see what others' experience have been on it. So look at this as you're setting up, as how you would look as if you were going to be the guest at this stay. Something that people forget to think about, but it's highly important, is whatever you do, if you're going to do that, talk to your neighbors, see how they feel about it. If you have a shared entranceway or anything like that, talk to your neighbors and see, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Are you okay with it? Because your neighbors can make or break that experience by your guest. So make sure that everybody's happy about this deal. And if not, how can you change that perception? Is that your neighbor doesn't understand how it works? This is an opportunity where you might want to reach out to other property Airbnb owners to find out how they've handled that experience. But talk to your neighbors, make sure they're happy with it. Know also about your neighbors to see what's going on down the road, what people's going to be passing on the way as they turn into your property. We all have those neighbors that we would prefer they just journey on down the road and move, but I'm sorry, it's a fact of life. So make sure you understand that everybody's happy. If there's something you need to explain about, do it. But don't forget your relationship with your neighbors. Now, Airbnb is a software, and as we've all experienced, anytime you're working with any kind of electronics, they can have bugs in them. So it's up to you to keep your content on Airbnb updated. That's not something that they're going to look at and do. So if you've decided to make a change to your house rules or policies, go on there and change it and make sure what's there when you set it up and you go back once a month or however, is that things are updated and correct, and that during a software upgrade that your content was removed or what have you. It's up to you to make those things, and it might be something you just want to put on your calendar or just make it a habit. Maybe if you're after you've had your Sunday afternoon nap and you're online, that you might want to go and check and see your account, make sure everything's great. Now, if you've not stayed at an Airbnb and you don't understand what your guests, how they go about it, a friend of mine, Vivek Patel, who has stayed at a number of Airbnbs in Southwest Virginia, because he lives in Northern Virginia. I asked him to do this little video of what it looks like and how your guests go about setting up a reservation with your properties.
Start by loading your browser. Today, we're going to book an accommodation or a home as a guest. When you land on the Airbnb page, you have 3 options. You can either book homes, a place for you to stay, experiences, if you want to book an outdoor recreation.
Sorry. Let me get it started again. I wish I hadn't have done that. Bear with me. Lesson learned, not to move anything as it's going. Hang on, let me restart PowerPoint. I apologize. Just give me a second. You can dock this from my pay, Brian.
Yeah, we'll give you this one for free, Sandy, but
Okay,
no
hang
more.
on. Let's give it a whirl.
It happens, no worries.
Start by loading your browser. Today, we're going to book an accommodation or a home as a guest. When you land on the Airbnb page, you have 3 options. You can either book homes, a place for you to stay, experiences, if you want to book an outdoor recreation event or any other experience like a tour, or restaurants. Today, we're going to focus on booking a home for this particular tutorial. Start by the place that you want to rent at. We're going to start with Abingdon, Virginia. As I said earlier, you can either book a home or an experience. We're going to do accommodations today. There are 91 homes available in that area. You have a lot of options to pick the dates you want to stay at, guests, home type, price, instant book, trip type, and more filters. We'll walk through each of these categories. Start by the dates. These are the 5 days that I'd like to book my property. Number of guests. For the sake of this tutorial, let's do 2 guests, 2 children. You can see that the number of available homes decreases or is very selective depending on what you choose in terms of the dates and the number of guests. The map is a real-time visualization of the properties that are available and listed geographically. Home type. You have the option of either getting an entire place to yourself or a room within a private home. Price is an important consideration. Typically, it says here that the average nightly price is around $198. So I will put my filter at about $200. Instant Book allows you to make a request to book a place without host approval, without waiting for host approval. I usually like to ask questions of the host, so I don't automatically select this. Your trip type, of course, is for families or for work. This, again, I don't usually fill out. Now, under more filters, you have a large variety of options. You can look at how many beds or bedrooms you want. I'm going to pick 2 bedrooms, at least 1 bathroom. Some people can pick 2. Superhosts are hosts that have been reviewed quite extensively on our experienced Airbnb homes. If you need accessibility, that is an option as well. You can choose specific home features. Most commonly, these are the different amenities available. Almost all of the homes have them. But if you want something very specific, you can pick it right here. You can choose the facilities that you like, the type of property. Some people like houses, others apartments. And since I have pets, I will choose pets. And you can see now that these are my options for places that I can actually book. Let's start by the first one. This tells you a little bit about the property. You can see Robin is a super host. It talks about the check-in. These are all the details. I almost always read about this space to get a sense of where this might be. One of the things that she talks about in her place is that it's a very locally, right in the middle of everything, right here in Abingdon. And if I'm interested and I like this place, again, it has 2 separate bedrooms. One has queen bed and 2 single beds, which is great for a couple and 2 children. It's pet friendly. The dates that I requested are available. And in all of the reviews, she has very high ratings. You can see she's 5-star. I like this property. And in order to book it, all you have to do is hit the book button. This allows you to then book the property that you're looking at. You can also do searches of other places in case this is not something that you wanted. If you want something cheaper or in a different part, you can look at this property, for example, by clicking on the map. This is a mountain retreat. And this tells you a little bit about that property. So I always do a research of a couple of different properties and try to identify what's best. Again, it says here, you can read more about the space. It talks about the cost and all the amenities. Again, it has 2 bedrooms and enough for multiple guests. Some guests require a 1-night minimum stay, while others may require more. And if you want, you can read the reviews. It tells you a little bit more about the property, where it might be located, what amenities it has. I rely often on reviews to get a good sense of it. And then when you're ready, you just have to book the property. You can also choose here to write to the guest. So if you want a little bit more clarity, you can reach out to the host and ask them questions. And the way you do that is contact host. And before you book your property, you say, you can review what comments they've written, the price and availability. But you can also ask them a question. Hello, Debbie. I wonder if this allows her to check your message and see if she can accommodate your request. Once you send message, the host will review your message, and if approved, will send you a note back and also send you a request to book. If you don't have any questions for Debbie, you can directly hit book now, and this allows you to go ahead and book the property. If the host approves your request, you will get a confirmed booking notice.
Okay, I hope you got some good tips there. One thing that I wanted to point out that Vivek addressed is that guests can send you, or potential guests can send you messages. So you better have access frequently to your emails so that you can address those. If you're like me, I'm very impatient. And if I've waited 15 to 30 minutes and they still haven't gotten back to me, I've probably went ahead and booked it someplace else, because I'm doing it on my time and I'm in a hurry usually. So make sure you have access, whoever's going to be the administrator of the account, that can get their emails and be able to respond quickly. And Vivek also showed you how you can do your research by just going on and booking a room in other areas of Virginia or Tennessee, East Tennessee, that you can use it to do your research on the cost of them, how they've got their the profile set up on their properties, how they've got them listed, make a little note on the good, the bad, the ugly, and that way before you do it, you're going to put the best foot forward. You also need to make a decision on, do you allow pets? And which means that you're going to maybe have to do some additional cleaning after that because of people's allergies that comes in next. You may even want to have easy access to a little scooper or something like that if they're traveling that they don't have, that they would need if you're going to allow it. Have it there handy for the folks. You also need to make a decision if you're going to allow smoking. If you are, I would suggest if you have a porch or a patio or a deck, that you have something for smokers to put their cigarette butts and stuff in, just to help reduce. So you've got to think of all of these little things as you're starting to set up your property and make that decision. Again, if you're going to allow smoking, that's going to add more to your cleanup. And is that something that you want and you're prepared to do? Those are your decisions. They're not mine. Now let's talk about insurance quickly. As an Airbnb host, they give you insurance. It used to be up to $1 million. You can go and check and look at those fine print on Airbnb. It does not include everything. So I recommend to everybody, whoever your insurance is on that home, on that property, is ask them how much insurance that I need. If you just have that, the space has been empty, and now you're going to have people in there, you really ought to consider talking to your insurance agent and figuring out if you need to add additional insurance onto that property. because now it's no longer sitting empty. There's going to be people coming and going in it. And you want to make sure that you're covered. It's better to be safe than sorry. Now I'm going to turn it over to Natalie Chapman with with Wise County, and let her just address the requirements with the towns and counties.
Yeah, hey everyone. Sandy, thanks so much for all the great information so far. Just a quick introduction for me. Again, my name is Natalie Chapman, and I serve as the Economic Development Supervisor here in Wise County. As we said at the start, we're just so pleased to be able to offer this workshop as a resource, and we really appreciate Virginia Community Capital and you, Sandy, for lending us your time and your expertise on this topic. So it is very encouraging to see so many local folks on the call today, and we're hoping this session is going to inspire at least a few folks out there and empower them to make and create their own Airbnb listings. So I'm going to try to be brief here so we can get back to the good stuff with Sandy, but I wanted to make sure we touched on some local regulations and best practices to be familiar with before your Airbnb opens its doors for guests. And before I jump in here, I do just want to preface these points by saying that Airbnb and similar platforms is still a fairly new concept in our region. And as the trend grows, as the trend for short stay rentals grows, localities will likely revisit some of these regulations. Because we're still learning too. So these are subject to change. Just off the bat though, if you plan to operate an Airbnb in any Wise County town or the independent city of Norton, you are going to need a business license. These can be obtained through your town's clerk or treasurer's office. If your property lies outside of town corporation limits, however, you're not going to need that business license. The county does not issue business licenses. So just be aware of where your property is located. You should familiarize yourself with your local zoning district and zoning ordinances, and just confirm that your rental is allowable under code, and that you're complying with things like occupancy rates, parking allowances, and anything of that nature. And your local zoning administrator can help answer any questions you might have there. Other permits, regulations, and potentially taxes may be imposed by your specific locality. So the best practice we recommend is your local and zoning administrator and your treasurer or clerk, just to make sure you're starting your new venture out on the right foot and that you're staying in compliance. Sandy, do you mind to help me get to the next slide? So here I'm just sharing some information on how to get in contact with those offices that I referenced for your specific town. Again, if your listing is outside of town limits, Wise County is going to be your point of contact. It might be helpful to just go ahead and jot these phone numbers down. And of course, they're all available online if you'd like to look them up later. That's it for me. I'll turn it back over to Sandy, and I'll just close out by saying, on behalf of Wise County, we can't wait to see your listings. And thanks for your time and participation today.
Thanks, Natalie. Appreciate it. And again, I want to reiterate, before you do anything, call your local town, county, and city, wherever your property is located, and to find out all the rules, get it set up correctly at the beginning so that you don't have to go and make changes later. If your property is, of course, you don't live there and you live away, maybe you live in another town or a county or city, and you want to keep track of your properties electronically through cameras, there are options like that, but you need to also look at the rules that Airbnb imposes on having surveillance equipment in properties. Some may just look at something at their door, so you can see people coming and going to make sure they've checked out, but that's up to you. But do your research before you get started. There are rules, and also talk to your insurance again about that, if they suggest that or not, and to have that part of your insurance. Some marketing tips as owners now, you do have this property and you want to get it, people to know about it. Take advantage of Airbnb's resources. If you remember, Eva said earlier, she uses that a lot because that's the first place that people are going to look at is on Airbnb. However, if you want to take advantage of things happening in Southwest Virginia coming up through this summer, you may want to, share on, your Facebook channel or what have you, and let people know that you've got this property available. And, it'll soon be time for a family reunion. Hopefully now that COVID is kind of starting to die down, we can get back to being with our family and friends. So take advantage of those opportunities. One thing though, I highly, highly, highly recommend is if you have a property, let Brian and Natalie know, contact your Chamber of Commerce, contact the Heart of Appalachia and your tourism offices in your county and towns and areas. Let them know about those properties. And I also recommend that any major industries in your area, you might want to talk to the manager or the HR manager and say, because they have people that are traveling for meetings or to make repairs to equipment and so forth, they might want to keep up with what's available for short-term rental. So take advantage of that. Don't leave any low-hanging fruits there. Is let people know that you have this property available. And don't forget your churches in your area too. That's another where they have people coming and visiting. So don't forget to promote locally. But again, use Airbnb's resources. Again, you can, however you want to promote your business, you can. But when you're setting up your profile and it's being found, include things like if you have a washer and dryer in it, which for me, if I'm coming to stay for a week for business or what have you, that's might be important to me. If you've got a coffee maker, if you're allowing kids to stay in your property with, of course, the parents, if you're going to provide a pack and play, if it's going to be wheelchair accessible, let people know all of these things that you have. So that's less packing for them. And it's just another great way to show your support for the tenants. If you again, you can look at all of this. By the way, Natalie is going to share the slide deck with everybody today later on. So you will have this and you're not having to quickly try to jot down all these notes, and you'll have them. And so hopefully it'll help you. And also, as I said about checking your profile, go and see how often you've been clicked on your photo. And if you're seeing you're getting clicked a lot, but you're not getting those stay, try to determine why that is. This part of it, when you've got a business, you've always got to be researching and figuring out, how to increase your market share and activity. So these are parts of the things that you need to look at. Stay up to date with market and news trends that's happening in the industry. It's up to you. It's part of the research. Follow the best Airbnb hosts. There's even some that I follow that have YouTube channels, that have Facebook channels, that they post things. Follow some of those folks and find out what's happening in the industry. Keep up with market conditions, guest preferences, and so forth. When COVID hit, this industry was hit hard because people weren't traveling and so forth. But when it started to open it up, there might be things that you can do for cleaning and so forth to make people feel more comfortable. And by following and what's happening in the market, you could be better prepared and to adjust for those conditions. So keep your research up. Some tools that a friend of mine who has a couple Airbnbs up in the Bluefield area suggested. These are things that he uses in his Airbnbs. First of all, he has the Argo video cameras at the porch at the entrances, not only to be able to keep track, because his main home is in East Tennessee. So that's a good little distance from the Bluefield area. So he can keep up to make sure when the guest arrives, when they leave. There's no cameras inside the residence, but it is on the outside. He also uses these CASA smart power outlets, which I have a number of those in my home, which he can control from wherever he's at on his phone. So if you know that you have a guest coming and they're going to be checking in, and let's say at 7 o'clock, they're doing a late arrival, you could actually have one of these outlets have a lamp in there where you can just hit a button and turn it on remotely for them, or you can turn a radio to have music playing in the background when they get ready to arrive. Use your creativity. Also, in regards to allowing people how they get into it, he uses one of these keypad deadbolts, and he can control it. All he has to do is, before the guest arrives, is send them the code to enter. And then after they leave, he can take that code out and do all this from his phone, and he can control how people can get in and out of his property. Again, those are things that you need to think about, especially if somebody's not coming until close to midnight. You don't want to get up and have to go and take your key and let them in. But of course, this all depends on if you have Wi-Fi at your location. So you may have to make some changes. And this is where your neighbors come in that can help you with giving people access to the key. So those are all things that you need to look at and talk to other Airbnb hosts. Some other things that you need to look at is locals must communicate before booking. And again, that goes back to having a party or anything. Yes, it's happened to a number of people. There was a couple that had a tiny home that they operated an Airbnb out of. I think they were up in the Allegheny area, and some kids, high school senior, decided they want to book it for a weekend. Well, they did. The owner did not do their research. And I guess they didn't say, well, that's odd that they live here and they're wanting to book my property, but they did. And 70 some people cannot fit in a tiny home, and it survived that. So they had significant damage just because they did not do their homework before they approved that booking. So that's up to you. It's your property. And but don't forget those little details. And have those occupancy limits. You might want to check too when you're doing your research to find out any regulations within the town and counties. If they do have occupancy limits and stay limits, you need to check into that. And then if you want to have a self check-in on the property, you need to have rules about that. And to keep down any confusion you have it all written out and spelled out. Don't make any assumptions, because people will take advantage of it when you do make that assumption and you didn't include it. If your property is part of an apartment complex or a gated community, you've got to find out all the guidelines on that, especially if you have a limited parking. If your property you're allowed 2 vehicles or only 1, and also there's some that you have to have a parking permit in that, you're going to have to make arrangements to be able to get that to your guests and make sure they know. If it is a smoke-free property and someone has smoked in it, what kind of fees are you going to charge for that? Is it $200 per day if you're smoking? If you have a late checkout fee, you need to figure out all of that. This is all important. Especially if you're sending a parking tag to someone and they lose it. Well, who's going to pay for that? If you're going to charge them, you have to have that spelled out, and that fee is included and they know about it. Okay. I know I don't want any surprises when I'm checking out and why the cost is there. Some other house rules. Again, I can't stress enough to do the pre-screening. And that goes for your guests too. They may want to call you and ask some of these questions. I mentioned the last bullet, retaliation clause. There are people, And I'm sure we've probably met some of those people in our lifetime that seem to always cause a problem. And if things do not go right, they want someone to pay for it. Well, it happens. You can't please everyone. And you may want to look into a retaliation clause if someone has stayed with you and they're trying to, for whatever reason, they decide to start bad mouthing you and doing things that can hurt the reputation of your company and your business. You want to figure out, what can I do over that? And I'm not going to go into full details, but that's another thing you need to do your research on, is having all that spelled out at the very beginning. And it wouldn't hurt if you've got you already have a relationship with an attorney. When you have all your rules and guidelines laid out, you may want to have a professional look at them before you post them up there. It's totally up to you. Again, it's your property. What you do with it, I'm out of it. In summary, do your homework in regards to the market needs, especially on your pricing and so forth. Please reach out to your chambers, your tourism, your economic development, your community leaders. Let them know that you have this property. If there's any special things they need to know, let them know, because I know that's good for me when I'm referring somebody that's coming into the area to stay, to refer properties to them. Hey, you might want to look at this. Make sure you look into the tax and regulation requirements in your area. Again, that's your standard operating procedure. Do that before you do anything else. Get your property tip-top shape before you put it up on there. The worst thing you can do is have it half done, or the commode does not flush or what have you, and people have a bad experience. Get it right at the very beginning and do those photos to make it appealing that people want to reach out. Reach out to other short-term property owners, learn from their experiences. Again, I'm sure they've had some bad experiences. Find out what those are and how they address those. It's best that you do your research and look what you like and what you dislike, and make sure you focus on the like. And staying in an Airbnb is, to me, the best, so that you can see what they do and you do a better job at it. And don't be afraid to ask for help. Again, Brian and Natalie wanted to do this workshop today to help you to get it right at the beginning, because they want you to set up in Wise County and they want you to be successful. And the same goes to whatever other jurisdiction you're located at. Reach out to your professionals and your community leaders and find out. And I hope you are very successful in your endeavor. And I'll be happy. Here's my contact information. You have it when you registered, though. You've probably received emails from me. But Natalie and Brian are your first point of contact in operating in Wise County in the jurisdiction. And again, anything that I can do, you can reach out to me and I'll be happy to point you in the right direction. But I hope this has helped, and I will open it up now to any questions that may be there.
Hey, Sandy, thanks so much. A lot of great information there. There is one question that Ked Mead from down in Big Stone Gap just put in the Q&A that we didn't get to yet, that you might be able to ask it. Not sure if you can see that. It says, do you have any guidance on what should be charged for cleaning and extra guests above a certain number?
I do not, because that varies by the property and the help that you're getting, and to the extent of what you want. That's just, there's no way to come up with that number. And again, talking to other Airbnb owners would probably be your best thing. For example, Eva, she is a clean freak. She doesn't want her guests to wash the towels or the bed linens, because there's a certain way she wants them washed. She also has a clothesline that she wants to hang them out on. So there's certain ways that she wants it done. Again, that's your all's decision, but it's one that you're going to have to do your research on to find out.
I think a lot of that probably has to do with time too, right, Sandy?
Exactly.
Just have to kind of factor in, okay, is it going to take me 2 hours to clean my property the way I need to? And what's that time worth to me, and to kind of use that factor to put a value on it.
Exactly. And one of the things too, I just saw Joe Morton with Heart of Appalachia's note about tourism magazines. That's something that Eva does in that book, is she has information on all the things to do, the restaurants and so forth. It's best that you help each other out, because those folks, those organizations are going to send leads and people to you as well. So think about that and reach out to those chambers and so forth and tourism offices.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I appreciate Joe bringing that up. The Heart of Appalachia website and the Heart of Appalachia mobile app is a great resource, kind of region wide. And then Natalie and I mentioned it in the chat feature also, but we have a newly updated visitwisecounty.com website. It has specific locations for lodging. So Sandy, you made the point about letting us know about Airbnbs that are available. We want to get those out there. We want to be a resource and to be able to help you promote those. And I know Heart of Appalachia feels the same way there. So yeah, very, very good points. If anyone has any questions, I know there were a couple of questions that came up early on about taxation, and that is kind of a hot topic, not just here in Wise County, but seems like nationwide. That's a little bit of a hot topic when it comes to Airbnbs. Natalie mentioned it earlier, but the county is looking for some ways, and we've been in some conversation with all of our localities. So all of your town managers and the city manager there in Norton are aware of this conversation and aware that we're looking for ways to kind of streamline this process. Unfortunately, there's not a really good blanket way to handle the taxation issue, but there are some localities close to us who have entered into agreements, and Natalie put the name of that in the Q&A. I can't remember what that $1 million term was, a voluntary collection agreement. So yeah, that's a good one. Somebody got paid a lot of money to come up with that term, I'm sure. So, but we are working with our county attorney and all of our localities to find a way that Wise County and all of our towns can take advantage of that. That way, there's kind of a uniform approach to addressing the tax issue when it comes to the occupancy taxes.
Starting an Airbnb is just like you are starting a new business. So you need to do your homework, just like what we counsel, but the basics is do a business plan, because you need to work out, for example, if something happens and you're sick and you have somebody that's staying there and you've got another one booked to come in later and you can't clean it, do you have a sister, an aunt, or somebody that can do it? Because you've got to do it. You don't want someone to have a bad experience and put that on their on your profile, that, man, you should see the cobwebs in that corner on that place, or God forbid bed bugs, or I don't know, but think of, that's just like sitting down, do your business plan. What's it going to take to get that property available? How much you're going to have that you're going to try to generate monthly just to pay the operation costs, the electricity, the insurance, that type of thing. You need to figure out all of that before you even start having any money that's going into your bank account. Because if it's not cost effective and you've got to hire out all of this, if you have to hire out a cleaning person, that's money that's taken off of your revenue. So is it worth it? And I suggest you do your homework now so that you don't have those surprises. And again, I can't stress enough, go talk to other operators. Ask these questions. They've already gone through it. They've got their horror stories. Find out from them so that hopefully you don't do the same thing.
That's right. Yeah, good. All good points, Sandy. We've got just a few minutes. We kind of had this scheduled until 10:30, so we had about an hour and a half booked in there. So I think, Sandy, you have it set up now to where folks can unmute if they want.
If they do, or if they can just let me know that they have a question.
Or put it in the Q&A or something. So we've got a few minutes. If anyone has any questions of Sandy or either Natalie or I, or we may not have all the answers, but we'll certainly try to find a way to.
I'm opening it up for people if they want to ask a question.
Yeah. So if you wanna turn your camera on, that's fine. If not, that's okay too, but we'll open it up. If anybody has any questions, we'll be glad to try to answer them.
I'm going down through there, but
Okay.
this is your opportunity. I don't know all the answers, but I know a lot of people. And again, there are a lot of people that are operating Airbnbs all over the world. So don't be afraid. But I guess the biggest thing is do your research. Just like you're investing your own money into it. It's not mine. It's not Brian's. It's not Natalie's. And you want to do it right. And we want you to be successful because the area needs more property. Anybody on here from tourism can tell you we need more property, especially in some of our more rural areas that we have so much to offer, but people don't have places to stay.
Right.
So,
Any questions?
or any comments from any of our
comments?
local partners?
Hey, yeah, this is Kid Mead. I had a question. Did you have any guidance on what you should be charging for a daily cleaning rate, or any extra charge for guests above a certain?
I think that's going to be based on the person you're able to get in the location, how big the property is, and that goes back to talking to others. It varies so much, Kedrick. It could be the type of is it on the weekend or is it a day that people may charge you more for a weekend? If they have to come in late at night to tidy up because you've got someone coming the next morning or next day, it just really varies. And by the location, I would say if it's downtown Richmond, it's going to be considerably more than it would be in downtown Coburn to find someone to do the clean. It's just based on basic economics, law of supply and demand. And that's where it comes in again to doing your research, talk to folks.
Joe Morton, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Yay.
Okay. Not sure if Joe, I want to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself real quick and maybe kind of speak to Sandy's point about, kind of this regional need. For those of you that don't know Joe, he's with the Heart of Appalachia, which is our regional tourism authority. Joe, anything you want to add?
Man, you guys throwing me under the bus here this morning.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Hey, let me just start. Sandy, it is so good seeing you back and really appreciate you doing these. These seminars really help everybody out. And Brian and Natalie, Wise County, thanks for putting this on. Just to reiterate what you said, we're finding throughout the region, if you're on the fence and have a property that you're considering putting into the Airbnb network, we are really seeing a need for it, especially as tourism and outdoor recreation continue to increase. The Spearhead Trail System, anything involving outdoor recreation, hiking, mountain biking, fishing, people just really want to get out. And I think stuff that started, it started a long time ago, but through the COVID crisis, as people have realized that they can work from more remote areas, they're coming in and spending a lot longer in the region. And we're kind of being found out, which is a good thing and a bad thing, but it's a great thing from a tourism standpoint because we're getting a lot of folks coming in right now. But just again, appreciate that. And like Brian had said a minute ago, and I put in the chat, feel free to go on heartofappalachia.com. You can list your business on there, and you can also give Pam Vance, who's our office manager, a call, and she can help you get listed on the Virginia Tourism Corporation website, which feeds back to us and also feeds back to the Wise County site. But again, appreciate it. And we need your Airbnbs, so please do it.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
And it's good to have you. And I'm glad to be back. Not all the way, but someday I'm going to be back in person, but I'm getting there. Bonnie, you have a question? Bonnie Aker? I see your hand up.
She may just be waving at you.
Okay. I see some other names and people that I haven't seen in a long time. If you want to share something too about what's going on in your area or suggestions to folks that are looking, speak up before Brian shuts us down. Well, I just want to say thanks for having me, Brian, and for allowing me this opportunity to share. I hope that you're going away with a lot of ideas. Hopefully we've give you enough to arm you that you're ready to go to the next level, at least starting your research. And again, we need you. We need these businesses in Southwest Virginia. And we want to do anything that we can to help you to take that idea and build it into a business that you're making money. And that's our goal and objective. So move forward, do it, and don't be shy about reaching out for help. And Natalie and Brian's there especially in Wise County to help you. Natalie, Brian, any passing?
I don't think so. Sandy, again, thank you. We appreciate, looks like I see folks from several different towns around Wise County. And so we hope that information has been beneficial to you. Just echo what Sandy said. Natalie and I are here to help, and if you decide to go down this road, we're here to help you promote this, and we're willing to help out in any way that we can. Natalie, anything you want to, any words of wisdom?
No, perfect. I don't think I can improve on that, Brian, but just thank you everyone for your participation today.
I guess one last thing, Sandy is going to make the presentation available to us after the fact, both the slide deck and the recorded version. So we're going to try to get those on our websites, and we'll be sure to try to share those in case of anyone who was not able to, anyone's not able to be with us. So we will make that available. All right.
Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a blessed rest of your day, and call if we can do anything to help.
Thank you, Sandy.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.